And we're live. Hi, everyone. I'm immigration attorney John Khosravi. Thank you for joining this live Q&A on May, 7th, 2020. I think it's a Wednesday, kind of the days. Actually, it's Thursday, I believe. Thank you for joining. We're going to have a general discussion about immigration law, the general questions and topics that pop up in your life in the case you're going through your friends, just so I give you some general guidance on what's going on in this process. You know, a lot of people contact me, they have general questions. I try to answer it here, just give an idea of what's going on because the immigration system can be very confusing. This is going live on Facebook. It's going live on TikTok. It's going to be posted on YouTube and on LinkedIn. Most of the usernames you can search for these are JQK Law Firm, JQK Law Firm, and on TikTok it's Immigration Lawyer John, JOHN. Now, things here are just general information, educational. If you have a case that's very specific, and you'll see this happening as we're talking about this case-specific stuff, we need to schedule a consultation to talk in private because there's a lot of information I need to know to be able to tell you what to do or what you should not do. But here, there's a lot of general stuff we could talk about, help guide you and give you a better understanding of this really complex immigration system that we have. It's very confusing. So feel free to, as you're all trickling in, to throw out some questions, and I'll be discussing some stuff. A lot of people have left comments with questions that said, just come on the live Q&A so I could actually explain it instead of having to type it out in something brief, give you a fuller understanding to the extent possible of the immigration issues and things you have to think about when you're doing these kind of cases. So Frozen Beerhead, user 371, the Pooh, Sahad, and everyone, thanks for joining. SLK, thanks for joining as well. This is going to be posted on YouTube, so you catch that later. JK Law Firm. I'm going to put some clips of the main things, takeaways, so you have that there as well. If you aren't on TikTok, if you are on TikTok, please follow. If you're not on TikTok, join TikTok and follow Immigration Lawyer John's page. It's going to be on the top right now. If you're on TikTok, you could join right there. And then if you had questions, you could email me to schedule a consultation, info@jqqlaw.com. The link to my website is on my homepage on TikTok, jqqlaw.com/tiktok.html. For everyone else, you either come there or info@jqqlaw.com, and we'll take it from there. So we had a good group gaining speed, so we'll just get a general beginning to what we're talking about today before the questions come in. So, right before it came on, a colleague emailed me a letter that 4 U.S. senators had written to the U.S. government, to President Trump actually, and it said we have to stop non-immigrant visas. The unemployment rate is too high. And we also need to shut down the EB-5 program. So it's a troublesome thing if it actually does move through. Non-immigrant visas are temporary work visas where people come work here. And so in those kind of cases, there's a lot of people already here. To shut that down becomes really hard. People are maybe starting families. And the EB-5 program is a program where people invest, $1 million, for example, to create 10 jobs in the United States. If we shut that down, a great source of money and revenue and jobs is going to go away. So we have first questions. I'm not going to be able to get into it too much, but Naweed Sarush says, it's been 20 months for my I-360, but it's still didn't get approved. Do you think it's normal? Well, if you want to check the processing times for a case, you should go to uscis.gov. There's a case processing option where you go see what kind of case you have, the form type, and which service center is handling your case. And it gives you a general estimate of how long they think they're taking to complete these cases. And if it's taking too long, according to them, you should contact USCIS, call them up, or use the online feature there and ask them and say, hey, listen, this case is taking too long. Could you help me out, figure out what's going on, and then take it from there? If it's still taking a long time, you could try contacting a local congressperson to help you out with that. That may or may not work. And in the worst case scenario, you could try filing a lawsuit, sue them and say it's taking too long. 20 months for immigration, it's not too bad. I mean, it's just normal. You have to be patient, but some cases go faster. But I would say check the processing time. Most likely that's within normal processing times. Okay, Frozen Beerhead says, my case was just sent to the National Visa Center for my spouse. Is there a possibility that my interview could be waived? No. So that's just not happening. So what happens is if you get married and your spouse is overseas, you file for Form I-130 for them first. And then once the I-130 is submitted and it's approved, they send the case to the National Visa Center. This is an agency that works for the Department of State to handle visa processing. Once you submit all documents to them, they approve it. They send the case to the embassy where you have to do an embassy interview. I don't think there's waiving of that. I mean, they could always change the rules in the future. If that happens, it is. But right now, I don't see that happening. Fortunately, right now, the embassies are shut down, so they're not doing interviews. So there's a backlog emerging. But eventually, in this case, whenever they do open up, they're going to have to do an interview to get the immigrant visa put in the passport if it's approved and to come to the United States. On Facebook, David DeVere says, why are you not responding to Facebook messages? If you notice, my Facebook has auto-responder that says, email me. Do not respond on Facebook. So if you are a Facebook user, please don't message me on Facebook. Please just send me an email, and we'll have a consultation session. You asked, do you believe that pending OPT will be denied? So a part of that letter I talked about where they said, let's get a non-immigrant visas, temporary work visas, and EB-5 program, they also said, let's get the OPT program. Now, the reality is what I think doesn't matter. I'm not in charge of these decisions. So whether I think or not, I don't know. We just have to see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen because it's going to affect a lot of students who spend a lot of money in the United States, and it's a lot of hassle for them. But my opinion, I don't like to add my opinion on these things. I just like to work with facts and let you know what's actually happening. I'll let other people give their opinion on TV, on CNN and Fox, but I'll just stick to the facts here, David. But thanks for your question. Thank you everyone for joining. We got a lot of people. The group jumped up really big all of a sudden. Karima says, how long is it taking to become a U.S. citizen if you submit the application right now? Every field office is different. So when you do citizenship, apply for it, you have to eventually do an interview at a local field office. And each field office has different, amount of cases coming there. They're busier, different times of the year the case visits. For example, this year is an election year, so more people file for U.S. citizenship in election years every 4 years. So all of a sudden, there's a lot more cases coming in. Now, keep in mind, there's less staff going to USCIS because some might be sick, some of them might want to go because of COVID. There's all sorts of problems. There's backups because they shut down interviews. So when you ask how long it takes to become a U.S. citizen, I mean, it's impossible to answer that. Just go to uscis.gov, check Form N400, see their processing times, and you'll get an unreliable number there. But I'd rather uscis.gov give you the unreliable number than you say John gave you the unreliable number. So that's the best way to do it. And David, thank you so much for about your kind words. Thank you. So that's that with citizenship and timelines in general. I don't like to guess. I like to work with facts, and timelines aren't really a factual kind of thing. AJUSA says, can you track process? We don't have receipt number. So you file for a U visa. These are people who are victims of crimes, and you say, how can we track it? You should have received a receipt, I believe. I don't handle U visas that often, but normally you do get a receipt, which you could kind of treat. They don't allow you, I think, to do the online system for tracking U visas. You might have to call them up. There's some sort of extra security features for that. But I would suggest if you have an attorney, talk with them to see what the best way to do that is. But you should have got some sort of tracking number for your U visa, so that's abnormal. See what happened. Did they cash a check for the case? Did they accept the case for processing? That'll help guide you on your way. Let's see what else is going on. We got more questions. User 31 says, marriage green cards being approved without interview. And Catherine, you're welcome. So typically marriage green cards always get interviews because they want to check to make sure it's a real couple. Rarely do they not do interviews. Historically, I've heard it happen, but it's very sparing, very rare. This is for people who file for the green card inside the United States, not outside for the embassy interview process. So if you're in the United States, you do it. Almost always there's an interview. Recently, some colleagues have been getting approvals without the interview. That's rare. I wouldn't rely on that happening in your case, but they might just have to do that now because everything is so backed up. We got to get these cases done somehow. So that might be a situation where they start doing that, but you have no power over it. So just assume that you're gonna have an interview. Frozen Beer says, oh, okay, I saw your TikTok about marriage visa interviews being waived. Great, thanks, you're welcome. Yeah, again, so it's USCIS, not the embassies. Embassies have to go through a whole system, so I don't think they would waive that. But, check the Department of State website. They'll notify you if that happens. They may do that for all we know. Probably not, but these things happen. Jazz12 says, is our I-601A taking longer than usual? Every case is different. No, every case is different. That's that. 601As are waivers for people who have unlawful presence or in the United States. But check USCIS.gov, and that has timelines right there. Some cases get approved faster, some take longer. It's just unfortunately the way it is. You're welcome, Kareem. Mohayar says, I want to bring my wife from Kenya in U.S. citizenship. How does that take the process? So Maya, as I mentioned in general, the timelines are difficult to say. I need to know a lot more information, and it's up in the air. As you know, right now the coronavirus has shut down a lot of places. So if you watched a video of this, if you just came in, I explained this in detail. But it's very hard to explain the process for getting a spousal visa. If you're a U.S. citizen, it might take 1 to 3 years on average. And then to get citizenship after that, 3 to 5 years average there. But these are just averages, and you're not an average person. You're a special, unique person, and so you're different from everyone else, just like I'm different from everyone else. So these averages, they may or may not apply to you. So that's the best answer I can give you. Jat Live said, did you answer emails? I answer my emails most of the time, unless I just think I can't help the person. But info@jqqlaw.com is my email. If you do email me, I'm not going to give you an answer, a legal answer. I'm going to say, okay, let's schedule a consultation. Depending on what you told me, this is the consultation fee. So that's that. David asked, how long is take for I-140 RFE decision? An RFE is a request for evidence. This is when someone has an issue with their case that they submitted already. The USCIS comes back and says, we need more information. There's no timeline for them to respond. It's whenever they get around to it. So when you say how long it takes, it depends on however long that officer wants to take to answer that question, and that's the best answer we have. So all these questions on timelines, you say there's no answer to them, so you can't stop asking about timelines, please. Okay, so Ham says, have they been enforcing DS 5540? So President Trump, let me explain what the DS 5540 is. He pushed this new rule into place that's called public charge. And in public charge, they're trying to crack down on people who are come to the United States who can't afford to live here, or the government might have to pay for them, or that kind of stuff. And so part of the public charge is if you're applying for anything in the United States, they're going to ask a lot of questions about your financial background. But if you're filing for a green card in the United States, you file Form I-944, and you have to get into details about your whole background. I'm not going to go too much detail. The embassy also has an equivalent of that, DS 5540. However, I have not seen them enforce it. Although this started in February, the thing is, the embassy is shut down, so they're not even reviewing cases right now. But between the time that this rule came into place and the embassy shut down during that short period of time in like late February, early March, they really have not been enforcing the DS 5540, or asking for it for the public charge rule. But you have to be prepared for it. That's as much as we could do. Okay, so that was an explanation right there. Canna says, hi, yourself. Well, thank you so much, Canna. Canna, actually. AJ says, any contact I can asking for trucking company, say you can wait, I'm already wait 2 years. Trucking attorney, I don't really understand your question, AJ. Please reword it so we can see what's going on. If somebody's taking too long, we have to take a look to see what it is. If there's a special issue that exists that makes it last longer, or if it's just normal waiting time. You have to email me. There's a paid consultation to do that review, but feel free to contact any attorney you like. My email is info@jqqlaw.com. All right, Nasser Thought says, my I-130 was approved last year, still waiting on my... Okay, so if the I-130 is approved, you have to go start the National Visa Center step. If it's been more than like 2 or 3 months, you have to contact them and say, hey, what's going on in my case? I think it's nbcresearch.state.gov or something like that is the email to try to get them going on that, or just contact an attorney to help you with that. Or go to the NBC website. Now, the National Visa Center, who deals with that after the I-130 is approved, the petition for alien relative, they're understaffed right now, and so expect that they're not going to respond to you a while. So they've said already, we're only dealing with emergency cases. Gurpreet says, how long parole in place taking now? My wife is veteran. She applied for me. So parole in place is if you didn't enter the U.S. lawfully, but you marry a veteran or a U.S. Military service person, and they allow you to get what's called parole in place. So you're allowed to be here in the U.S. for a period of 1 year and have to renew it, and you get a work permit. And potentially, if you're married to a green card holder citizen, you can potentially even get a green card yourself. How long does it take place? It depends on your local field office, and that's that. So it just depends on how long they're taking. David says, why they ask for RFE for I-129 after it's been renewed twice. So one thing that happened under President Trump is that for work permits, these are from I-129s. It could be H-1B, it could be an L-1, different visa categories where you work. If you've already been approved multiple times, if you've already been approved once, they're really just going to be easygoing before Trump on the second and third, because like you already proved what you needed. But after President Trump came, he says every time you renew an extension or extend the case or renew the case, they're going to look at the case like new and do a full new analysis by a whole new officer, essentially. So even if you've been approved twice with no issues, extended twice, a third one could be hit because they're going to re-review everything. So that's the situation with that. And so you just have to be patient. If you are doing H-1B, you have an employer that's hired an attorney that's helping you, please consult with them for really case-specific advice. They would know the situation better, and that's the best way to do it. Okay, so Nasrid Fool says, I-148 to get approved, you think this is normal? Nasir, did you ask another question earlier? I was also waiting for my. So if you filed an I-130 petition, it's an alien relative petition, and you filed for adjustment of status I-485, this is the green card petition together, and the I-130 was approved, but the I-485 was not. That becomes a peculiar issue. They're not really supposed to usually approve them at the same time. If it's not approved, yes, a little bit abnormal. Doesn't mean that it won't get approved, but in that kind of case, I really recommend looking and talking with an attorney to see if they could spot an issue that exists in the case that would cause them to do this kind of delay and to not approve it. It's a little peculiar, but I don't know. I have to see your case, so definitely schedule a consultation with a lawyer to go for it. Chat Live says there are 2 tables on the Department of State website to check priority date. Which table we need to check? So, originally, how should we? This is a big law school kind of. It is a complex topic to explain, but it's good to know. So, for most green card cases, there's only a limited number of these green cards that the government allows to be issued every year, and because of that, there's more requests than the number of green cards that there are. There's a backlog, a line that starts emerging. And so what they created was this thing called the Visa Bulletin, where they take the date that you submitted your I-130 or your I-140 or your labor cert for employment-based cases. That's the day you get your place in line. And then there's this chart that every month moves around back and forth. And if that chart goes past the date where you submitted your case, that's when a green card could have been issued to you. Now, President Obama came, and to make things life a little bit easier, he added a second chart for each of these and said the first chart that existed is when the green card is actually going to be issued, but there's a previous chart as to when you can start submitting your green card application and such. There's more complex explanation for that. I'm not going to get into that. So there's 2 charts. Now, when you ask which you need to check, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you want to file the paperwork for your adjustment of status I-485, then you look at the second or the second chart. But if you already submitted your paperwork and you're waiting for them to finally issue the green card, in that kind of case, you look at the first chart. So depending on what you want to do, and this long explanation is why you need to have an attorney on the case to help keep an eye on these things for you, so you know when it happens, you don't miss an opportunity. I have a person that came to me, could have done an F2A marriage case, a green card holder for his spouse. Spouse was here for 5 months. They're about to leave. They could have filed for their spouse's green card many months ago, but they didn't understand the Visa Bulletin. And now the spouse has to leave and then wait outside for a long time with the travel ban situation. So they didn't come to a lawyer until it was too late, unfortunately, in that case. Ahmed says, marriage-based application, I-485 ready to interview, what's next? So if the I-485, the adjustment of status, green card request is ready for interview, what's next is the interview. Now, when that interview happens, could be 1 month from now, could be 1 year from now. No, there's no timeline I could give you. So that's that. User 580 says, sir, I have a question for you. If you can answer, thank you so much. You're welcome, but please ask your question. Eleanor says, how about approve asylum and waiting for green card? What is the update about that? Well, if you have an asylum case, after a year, you can file for your green card. There's no update on that other than the fact that, you have to wait, file the paperwork properly, wait, and hopefully get the green card. That's about it. That's about all I could tell you. BM says, interview to be scheduled. Does that mean no biometrics? It depends on what kind of case you have. So if you did adjustment of status, you should have done biometrics, unless they're waiving the biometrics requirement because you had previously in the past year or 2 done biometrics. Biometrics is a fingerprinting appointment and a photo to do security checks. Because they shut those down because of the coronavirus, they've made an exception where if you had done your biometrics last year or 2, they may use previous ones. But usually you have to do biometrics. They're pretty strict about that. Hadig says, hey, I applied for I-130 and they replied after 1 year. They said I'm married 3 times, but I didn't. You need to talk to a lawyer right there. I don't know what to tell you. They say it 3 times. We got to look to see what they have in their record. You might have said some stuff in a previous visa application, or someone said some information about you, or you have a similar name to somebody. It could be a million and one things. That's something you got to get into to see what the hell is going on, because claiming you were married 3 times when you weren't is a big error. Now, these kind of big errors do happen pretty frequently with USCIS, but nonetheless, it's probably something you should have talked to an immigration attorney. You don't need to talk to someone on the phone or on YouTube or a TikTok. You got to go in person or do a video consultation with an actual lawyer in private, because it's a serious issue. User 580 says, I have almost 6 months already work permit in this problem. I have almost 6 months already work permit in this problem when I get interview. Your question is not clear, user 580, but when you're getting interviewed, I don't know, as I've mentioned a couple of times. The rest of your question is kind of jumbled. I don't understand it. User 333 says, apply for my husband, all paperwork to get got sent out. How long would it take to get a response back? The receipt, maybe 1 to 4 weeks. The rest of it, God knows. That's the only person who could tell you that, not me. Pare says, green card, my husband is a citizen. You got to throw more stuff about there. And that. Now, David on Facebook says, can you talk a little about the doctor who a green card got denied? So I read the article. There was some doctor in New York who had a green card application pending, and it was denied. And so it was, they were crying and they were making a big deal at CNN. The problem is they don't have any specific case information to explain why that person's case was denied. It could be a million and one things. It might have been a justified denial. Frequently, the really bad stuff that the government does, usually lawyers are able to get them to fix it because it's so ridiculous. The stuff that does come in the news that's really, we hear and we feel bad about, usually there's good reason why it doesn't get approved. Like a lot of times I'm in Los Angeles and I deal with the port authorities, the border officers in Los Angeles. Frequently I know them in person. I know I have their number, email, like we communicate frequently. And every time I see the Los Angeles Times, it's a local newspaper here, write about them messing up, they didn't mess up. They did everything by the book. The LA Times doesn't understand, and I don't mean to single out the LA Times, just generally people who are not immigration lawyers, and many immigration lawyers as well, don't understand how the procedures of the port authorities work at the airport or at the land border. So they put undue hardship on these kind of people. So many times when you hear these heartstring stories, if they don't have the detailed facts, and most of them don't, the probably was right. So in this case, they said the doctor's green card is denied, and they're very sad, but they didn't provide any other details of why it would have been denied, what the denial was based on. So based on that, I'll be kind of hesitant to really get into too much because I don't know. So let's see, let's ask some more questions. We only have 10 minutes left. How long did it take to get interview after work permit? There's no timeline, it just depends on whenever they get to it. Rosecrown says, have TPS. I'm in process of getting my residency. Put good effective for kids effect. Okay, so Rosa says she has TPS. This is called temporary protected status. These are when people are here in the United States and then something happens in their home country where they permit them to just stay in the United States and make it okay. She says, then I got some food stamps and stuff. It will affect, we're getting food stamps for the kids that affect the case. I don't know. It depends on if your kids have status or not, how your whole financial situation looks like. That's something that you need to have a private consultation lawyer for. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I don't want to give advice just willy-nilly like this without knowing all the facts. Molly Javadi says, so when do you think they will open the embassies and a spouse of a U.S. citizen that has already done the interview and they require extra documents, and we have submitted all documents, so we are waiting. So the gentleman here, they said their spouse of a U.S. citizen did an interview at the embassy, and then the embassy shut down, and the embassy beforehand requested documents. They sent those. When are they going to open? Your guess is as good as mine, as I've been saying in this whole video series. I have no idea. It just depends on when they get to it, and then whenever they get around to issuing the visa. That's up to them. I have no power over them. That's a political and government decision to make. Okay, thank you, BM, for sending the rainbow puke. Elena says, so does that mean I could get the green card without interview for asylum approved? If you had an asylum case and you got a green card based on asylum, historically there was no interview required. However, President Trump said everyone has to do an interview. But this was pre-coronavirus. Right now, they're approving stuff without interview sometimes. So maybe your case would get approved without the interview, but it's up to the officers, so you have to wait. David says, do you believe immigration will be harder or better? It's, better is relative terms on who you're asking, but it's harder. It's already harder. Everything I do has gone harder. As long as this administration and the people in charge of the immigration system are still in charge, the immigration system is going harder. Before they make a change to the immigration rules, how we work, they make an announcement that they're going to update the Code of Federal Regulations. And that's like 60 to 90 to maybe 6 months beforehand, they announce what they're going to do. And we see what's coming down the pipeline. And so nothing good is coming. It's just going to make things more complicated, more difficult, more expensive, more of a headache for anyone who's interested in doing anything related to immigration in the United States. That's the unfortunate truth of reality matter. And it's going to be really hard to undo these kind of things. Once you put it in, it's really hard to take it back. And so that's the situation we're dealing with right now. Okay, good. Well, let's see. No volume. Can you all not hear me? You should be able to hear me. Oh man, have I put in on my headphones the whole time? Okay. Oh. Have you not been able to hear me this whole time? I have on TikTok, this is on my phone. I have those Apple headphones, and headphones are in the other room. I didn't bring it with me, and the Bluetooth was on. So let me know if you have not been able to hear me this whole time. You've been saying thank you. Some people have been saying thank you, so I think they've been hearing me. But these kind of snafus happen. My bad. Santoshi says, I'm a citizen. Um, says, now how long did it take? Oh, thanks. How about this? This is Facebook, hear me, but the other phone that I'm using for TikTok might not have worked. Molly Javadi says, will they deny a green card to a spouse of a U.S. citizen if Persian, or they eventually give a visa? Molly Javadi, I don't know. I mean, whether they'll deny your case depends on your specific case. It is what it is. Santoshi says, I'm a citizen holder now. How long it take to get my husband over here? Submit all the documents September 12th, 2019. If your husband is overseas, it's going to take a year or two at least for it to process. That's as general as I can give you. Embassies are shut down right now. There's a backlog emerging, so there's time issues there. And again, like, I don't know your documents. Like, I have one case. We're doing spouse of a U.S. citizen, similar to your case, and the husband is in Europe. Now, 25 years ago, when he was a kid, he had a conviction on his record. The case is going to be fine. The conviction wasn't a big deal. But we have to get the court record for him because the government's going to want that to show that everything is fine with the court. Now, I asked him for this document 14 months ago when we first started it. And he hasn't been able to get it to me now. And now everything is shut down for getting this kind of paperwork in his home country. And the embassies are shut down. So his case should have been done about a month or two ago. Before even right when the coronavirus shot, could have got an interview, but he didn't give me his last bit of document. So now I don't know when it's going to happen. So when people ask how long it takes, it would have been very simple for this person to get this document for me a year ago, but he didn't do it. And this is what frequently happens when you're dealing with clients. It's just natural; they're busy with their lives, but they don't get the documents that we need. And so this happens more than often, 51% to 80% of the time. I don't get the documents I need, so I'm really sitting there waiting on the clients for me to move it forward. So when you ask how long it takes, I don't know if you submit all the documents properly. I don't know if you're missing something. I don't know about your finances. I don't know what kind of situation your husband has. So not only do I not know the timelines, I don't know your case to add the difficulties that could come from there. So what I recommend is consulting with an immigration attorney to get the best idea, but that's about that. Taha says, my husband had biometric interview for renewal for green card. When will we get it? I don't know. I guess if people ask timeline question, I'm just going to say, I don't know. That's up to the government and God when that happens. I-130 Safi says, and we only have a couple minutes left, so if you get some last questions in, I'll try to get him in. My I-130, that's a petition for alien relative, you're submitting for a relative, is now at the National Visa Center. This is when the relative is overseas. All documents are already submitted, waiting for an interview. How much time does it take? I don't know. Let's go next. Asylum approved. Can you apply for a green card? So if the asylum is approved, you can apply for a green card 1 year after having the asylum approved, and that's that. Molly says, another question, if somebody has a green card and is stuck outside the States at the moment because of coronavirus and trying not to be safe and they overstay for 6 months, will it be a problem? It can be. It's up to the port officer. If someone's out, when you have a green card, you're not supposed to be outside the United States for 6 months. Nowadays, under this new public charge rule, they can hassle you about that too if you're outside 6 months. But whether it's to be a problem, it's up to the officer to deal with the airport. Usually it's not a problem, but it's up to them. So that's the best answer I can give you. Just try not to be outside for too long. That's about it. Or get a reentry permit. Bilar says, immigration offices are open or closed? Offices are open, but they do not do live interviews. So they don't meet you in person, but they're still working behind the scenes. Joe Lang, thank you for following. Okay, Elena says, thank you so much. I do appreciate your answers. Do you handle cases or Washington? No, I handle cases from across the country and the world. So that shouldn't be a problem. Just email my office and let me know what kind of case it is. I don't handle every type of case. If there's a case I handle, yeah, we could do it, no problem. Just email me. I'll schedule a consultation to go there. Paramai, we hear you once. Wonderful. Oh, thanks, Elena. I'm glad you hear me now. Hadu says, hey, sir, my brother is a Germany citizen, but he want to move from there to the U.S. Can he stay? It depends on his background and what's going on. I need to have a conversation with your brother to see what the situation is. So have your brother schedule a consultation. I could break down the process and see if it works or it doesn't work. That's that. You're welcome, Molly. Hip Harvey's, thanks for joining. Okay, let's see. Bueno says, my husband is about to send his waiver. Would you know anything about the waivers? I mean, would I know anything about waivers? Yeah, there's this thing called waivers about, I could tell you, consult with immigration in private to figure out what's going on, but that's too broad a question. It's not a specific question. Ismail says, always a pleasure watching you and getting advice for my friends. You're welcome, Ismail. Thank you so much for joining and your nice comment. Thank you. I appreciate that. Karina says, I'm trying to become a U.S. citizen. Do you recommend me filing out the application or getting a lawyer? Whether to get an attorney or not to get an attorney for a case is a very personal decision. Obviously, I'm going to say yes, get an attorney. I've seen way too many people ruin their lives and get deported even because they didn't pay attention to what they're doing. Now, 99% of people would not have that situation, maybe 99.9%, but there's hundreds of thousands of people, millions applying for citizenship. When you say 99%, it seems like a lot, but when you think about a million people, 99% of that, or 1% have problems, is a big number still. So at the very least, I always say have a consultation with a lawyer, and not every lawyer is going to do an in-depth consultation. But when people come to me for citizenship, they want to apply for citizenship, that's when you had your green card for enough time. I just go through their entire case history to see if I could identify a problem that could be problematic that could get you denied or deported. And at the very least, do that. And be fully honest with your lawyer. Try to get all your documents ready so you can review it. Not every lawyer is going to sit down with you and go in detail, but my MO that I do is I go through it in detail to try to spot any issues that exist. So whether you need to have an attorney or not, at the very least, talk with really 3 to 4 lawyers, go through your whole case history, see if they can identify or spot stuff. Not every lawyer is going to be as detailed, and not every lawyer knows all the rules to be able to spot it. But to do their best to do it, and then if you then have a major issue, for sure hire a lawyer. Or if you feel insecure about it, or if you don't feel like doing it, then hire a lawyer. If not, then do it yourself. One thing I found for people filing for citizenship is a lot of the people hire me for doing their citizenship case. They're not even complicated cases; they can do it themselves. But they've been waiting and putting it off year after year after year because they don't feel like doing it. So a lot of times they hire me and say, listen, unless I give the case to you to do, it's just not going to get done. And so I have to give it to you. And so that's a lot of my citizenship cases. My primary case, though, is people getting married or people starting business in the United States. And then eventually, when those people get green cards, because we've had a long relationship, I help them with the citizenship process, but also randomly help people that need help that are new to me as well. But the main answer to your question is consult with a lawyer, get a better opinion about your case, and then make a personal decision whether to hire an attorney or to not hire an attorney. Again, it's a personal decision. I guess this will be our last question. Sorry about the rest. Please join us tomorrow at user 5. Well, I'm going to get your question. Please join us tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific. On TikTok, it's Immigration Lawyer John, John. On Facebook, it's JQK Law Firm. The video of this was going to be posted on the YouTube page and on the LinkedIn page and on Facebook page for JQK Law Firm. That's the place to check it. So user 580 says, I'm married, USA citizen, the approved work permit, but not yet interview. Yes, as I mentioned previously in this conversation, catch the video. You have to wait for your interview to be scheduled. I'll get one more question because I know that wasn't a full one. Donia says, please give info about fiance case. How long is this shut down because of coronavirus? I don't know. When you say how long, my answer is, if you haven't watched the rest of this, is I don't know. That question. So let me get a good question there to end it. I don't want to leave you all with just a quick answer. Hi, I'm a green card holder. My wife is in India. Her document review was completed. Immigration ban effect. Yes, if you're a green card holder, it will affect your case unless you had the immigrant visa already issued. That's the way to go. Jat Life, thank you. Santoshi, thank you as well. So that's the end of it today. If you're on TikTok, there's a link on the profile page. First of all, follow my page, then click on the Instagram page and on the YouTube page. Follow there because I do a lot more material and videos there. My TikTok, I'm getting kind of bored of doing TikTok 1-minute stuff, so I have most of my stuff there. And then there's a link for my website to be able to contact and join the newsletter. So I have a newsletter where I update information, send stuff. I need special deals, for example, the firm too. I'll be sending that for you as well. Just join the listserv, go to the website, follow the pages, and I'm going to be here more and more content, more and more video. I really enjoy interacting and talking with you all and having a good time. I hope you're all safe and doing well. I guess until tomorrow, God bless. I'll see you next one and be safe. Bye-bye.